everyone and welcome back to Chess with MNM, and also welcome back to Legends of Chess online tournament on chess24.com. Guys, today's game is so different and so exciting game because today's game played between two champions, between Vladimir Kramnik, the world champion of 2000, and between Viswanathan Anand and Viswanathan Anand, who took the title from Kramnik in 2008. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's see what happened in this exciting game. Now, before I start, also, this game is the game 2 from the day 3 between these players, okay? I mean, Kramnik won the first game, and it wasn't that exciting and that beautiful game. However, I cannot share too many videos per day. So for that reason, unfortunately, I will not share it on the channel. You can watch it on chess24.com or something like that. And this game, I think, is more beautiful and more more beautiful and more exciting than the first game. So let's see what happened. Kramnik with the white pieces and Anand with the black pieces. Kramnik opened this game by knight to f3. d5 here played by Anand, and now g3. c5 played now, and now bishop to g2. Knight to f6 played here, and now here Vladimir castled. Now this structure, our knight to f3, g3, bishop to g2, they call to this opening the King's Indian opening, or the King's Indian attack. And this one of my favorite openings, because it seems it's not how can I say, it's like system. And I mean by that whatever if your opponent play, then you will play them the same ideas and the same position. I mean, here after knight to f3 and bishop to g2, the idea is pushing d4 and then pushing c4, or playing d3 with e4 pawn structure. And I mean, the idea that whatever if you opponent play, you will play the same ideas and the same structure as I said. And I mean, this opening is beautiful for the beginners, or for the lazy, or for the buzzy peoples, alright, or for the buzzy players, let's say. So here g6 played by Anand. I want to develop my bishop on this perfect diagonal. Also, I want to prepare to castle. And now c4 played by Kramnik. The idea that if you capture, then I will simply play queen to a4 check, and then I will take back my pawn in the next move. So for this reason here, after c4, Anand said no, I will not capture, and simply I will play bishop to g7, developing my bishop, also preparing to castle. So now knight to c3, developing the knight, putting more pressure on the d5 square, and here Anand castle. Now the engine, he says that d5 is the best move at this position, but however, also castling here is possible, okay? So here after Anand castle, now d3 played by Kramnik, opening the way for the bishop, also supporting the c4 square, and now knight to c6 played, developing the knight, okay? Bishop to f4, let's develop our bishop, and now d4 pushed by Anand, grabbing more space on the center, also attacking the knight. Knight to a4, attacking the pawn on the c5 square. So here knight back to d7, saying to Kramnik, my dear Kramnik, unfortunately that we don't giving pawns. So here knight back to d7, and now a3 played by Kramnik. The idea by this move that I want to push b4 to break a through in the on the queen side, okay? So here after a3, e5 pushed by now by Anand. Now here if we take a look to this position, we will see that Anand here has a nice space on the center, and Anand here probably will work on the king side, because he pushed now e5, and now f5 comes on the road, and this is what we will see in the next moves. So here e5 played, and now Kramnik, instead of playing bishop to d2, Kramnik here played bishop to g5 first. The idea that I'm attacking your queen, forcing the black to pushing f6 to weak this diagonal, and then here Kramnik played bishop back to d2, and actually it's a beautiful maneuver. I mean, forcing the black to pushing pawn. Because here the problem that if you play something, let's say like queen to c7, okay, moving the queen away, first this queen on the c7 doesn't do anything, and the other idea that always I have bishop to e7 attacking your rook, and also your pawn on the c5 square when this knight moves, okay, and my bishop on the g5 is, perfectly a good bishop. So here the best move here is pushing f6, and this is what the engine says. F6 played, sorry, not f5, f6 played, and now bishop back to d2 played here, and now rook to b8 played. Rook to b8, preparing to pushing b5 at some point, or something like that, also shifting the rook from this dangerously diagonal, from this bishop's diagonal, and now b4 played by Kramnik, hitting the queen side. So now queen to e7, supporting the c5 square, because the Kramnik's idea is that I don't want to capture, because if I capture, then he will recapture by the a pawn, a capture on b5, opening the file for his rook. Also, at some point, b5 will bother my knight on the c5 square, c6 square. Also, will clear the diagonal for this bishop on the g2 square, b5 push. So for this reason, I will simply here, I will play queen to e7, okay, supporting the c5 square, and if you want to capture, it's not a problem for me. And this is actually what Anand here, Kramnik here did. B capture on c5 played by Kramnik. So here after B capture on c5, Anand here played f5, okay, and his idea that I want to focus on the king side, okay, and however the pawn on the c5, I'm attacking it twice, so I can capture it in anytime I want, okay. So f5 played by Anand, and here Kramnik said now he will push e4, followed by e3, our f4, our and also g5 and g4 comes. So let's exchange some pawns by pushing e3, and this is actually what happened. B capture on, sorry, D capture on e3 played, bishop capture on e3 played, and sorry, defending the pawn on the c5 square. So he simply f4 played by Kramnik, sorry, by Anand. Let's open some diagonals and some files on the king side. So he bishop back to d2 played by Kramnik. And now g5, I want to push g4 on your knight. So here, after g5, Anand here simply played rook to e1. The idea that I want to develop my rook on your queen's file, also to put more pressure on the e5 square. Kramnik here simply, Anand here simply pushed g4, attacking the knight. Knight to h4 here played by Kramnik, and now f3, keep grabbing a space on the king side. Now the problem by pushing f3, the black grabbed the space, okay, and the engine he says that the black has a slightly, the black here is a slightly better, okay, but the idea that by pushing f3 now you close it or you lock it the king, let's say the king side, okay, and now you don't have too much things to do on that side. So here after f3, but however f3 is the best move here and it's a good move, okay. So bishop back to f1 played now. And now queen to f7 played. Now the idea by queen to f7 that now I want to push e4. Example, if you play anything like let's say king to h1, okay, I will push e4. Now the idea by this move that I'm attacking your rook on the a1 square. When you move it to anywhere, then I have the e capture on d3. This move will weak the pawn on the c4, so I will be able to capture in the next move, and also I will be able to take back by c5 pawn. And so queen to f7 is a beautiful move actually by Anand, okay. Here, after queen to f7, Kramnik here simply played bishop to e3. The idea that now e4 doesn't work because simply I can push d4. Before you are not able to push it because that pawn attacked it twice, and here let's if we take a look back to this position, now you cannot push e4 because now the pawn attacked it twice and there's no piece protecting it, protecting the square. So here after bishop to e3, now I'm able to push d4 to close the diagonal. So here Anand didn't play e4, and Anand here played knight to f6. Let's bring our knight into the king side. So knight to c3, because I mean no longer the black attacking the pawn. So I mean this knight is mission just finished, so let's move it, or let's return it into the king side, into the game, sorry. So knight back to c3. And now Viswanathan Anand didn't play the best move at this position. Anand here played rook to d8. The engine he says that the Anand here had to play a6. Why? Because here after rook to d8, here immediately Kramnik played knight to b5. The idea that I want to jump with my knight into the d6 square, and this square will be perfect square for my knight, attacking your queen, attacking your bishop, putting a pressure on the b7 square with the rook when it comes into this file. I mean the knight here will be a monster or a dragon, not knight. So for this reason here after knight to b5, knight to b5. So for that reason, the engine he says that instead rook to d8, Anand had to push a6, okay. So here after bishop to b5, Anand here played bishop back to f8, okay. Because I mean you have to grab this knight. This knight will bother you. Will bother your queen, your bishop. Your will close the file on your rook. Will put a pressure on the b7 square. I mean this knight, you cannot deal with this knight. So after bishop back to f8, here simply Kramnik played queen to c1. Now Kramnik's idea that when he attacked me by a6, and this is actually what happened, I'll play knight to d6, and when he exchanges his dark square's bishop with my knight, then this will weak this dark squares on the king side, okay? And this is what Kramnik work on it now. And however, here the black will win a pawn, but let's I mean but however, Kramnik is up a pawn and is the pawn with the c5. So here, after bishop capture and pawn capture and rook capture, now the dark squares bishop gone. So the dark squares on the king side is so weak. So here, after rook capture on d6, Kramnik here played so strong move actually, and it is d4. Okay, and d4 was so strong move and also was so tricky move, because here there is now here Crowning's idea is that if you capture by the pawn, here Anand played knight capture on d4, and this was actually a terrible blunder by Anand, unfortunately, because here pawn capture on d4. The idea that if you play, the idea by pawn capture on d4 that I will play bishop to f5. If you do that, attacking your rook, when you move it, then you will lose the other rook on the b8 square. And the best move here is moving your rook, and then after bishop capture and knight capture, the black here is simply up and exchange, and this, enough to win. Also, the queen comes into the king side. Also, the rooks, not to here, but to here. And the engine, he says that the white has a nice advantage here. So here, Anand said, no, I will not capture by the rook, the pawn, and I will capture by the knight, okay? Not all of him to play bishop to f5. But unfortunately, this doesn't work, and this was a terrible blunder by Anand, because the best move here for Anand was capturing by the pawn, but here simply Kramnik played bishop capture on d4, pawn capture on d4, and now not bishop to f5, but queen to f5. And this is the problem, because, it doesn't make a difference, actually. Bishop, queen to f4, sorry, not f5, to f4, okay? To f4, attacking the rook. If you move it, then you will lose the other rook. So here, queen to c7, and the problem that if you protected by queen to c7, our queen to d7, or any move like that, then here simply I will push c5, sorry. And this is the main problem here. c5 here pushed by Anand, sorry, by Kramnik. Rook to c7, moving away from the queens, from the diagonal, also protecting the queen and also offering to exchange the queens. But here simply Kramnik played bishop to c4 check, king to f8, and here rook to e5 played by Anand, Kramnik, sorry, and it was at this position that the world champion of 2008, Viswanathan Anand, simply resigned this game. Now, why he resigned the game? Because it's a clear game for Kramnik, because here, if you play anything, let's say like a5, the engineer said that the best move for the black is playing bishop to e6, sacking his knight, also his bishop. This is the best move for the black, actually, because here, let's say if you play something like a5, then rook a to e1 comes. Now, the idea by rook to e5 is closing the diagonal, not all of the black to exchange the queens, also clearing the e1 square for the other rook, for the a rook to comes into the e file to play rook to e8 ideas. Here if you play to keep push your pawn, example of something like a4, you have nothing here to do, then simply I have rook to e8 check. When you move your king into the g7, and this is the only move, then I have rook 1 to e7 check. You will lose your queen in the next move, so your queen capture and rook capture on the e7, and then after king to f8, simply I have rook to f7 check. When you move your king, then simply you will lose your rook, or you will lose your knight first with a check, and then I will take your rook. It's over for the black here to continue in this game. So for this season here, after rook to e5, it was at this position that Anand simply resigned this game. This was the game. Hope you really enjoyed it. Anand, Viswanathan Anand is one of my favorite players, actually. I love his playing style, but unfortunately at this game Anand played bad, actually, and he deserved the lose, actually. So yeah, this was the game. Hope you really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the game, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, you can check out my previous videos, and see you in the next video.